Good evening to our honorable political leader, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Senior Counsel, all members of Parliament, members of the National Executive, and to you, our viewing and listening public. Before I get into my substantive contribution here this evening, I would like to provide a definitive message to all the families in Trinidad and Tobago who have lost either relatives or friends to crime and criminality in our country. The United National Congress has said on several occasions, and I will reiterate here tonight, we will continue to stand and fight for you. We will stand with you and fight for you in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and we will stand shoulder to shoulder with you outside of the Parliament to ensure that every person within this country has a safe place to reside. Since 2015, it is no secret that Trinidad and Tobago has been on a precipitous decline. In all facets of life within our country, we are in danger. Our economy is in shambles. Crime and criminality are running a scourge unfettered, unmatched within our country. And never before has things gotten this bad than when the COVID-19 virus, that unprecedented COVID-19 virus, came upon our shores in 2020. Since 2015, the United National Congress has kept a watchful eye on the state of affairs in our country. And even when it was extremely unpopular to do so, we have spoken out against the ills and indifference and wrongdoing within our country. And that decision to speak out on a number of occasions, when it was extremely unpopular to do so, has borne significant fruit. My friends, I cast your minds back to 2020 when COVID-19 just came upon our shores. And the United National Congress had several questions, especially when it came to this exemption policy. When the government of Trinidad and Tobago asked the UNC to partner with them to fight COVID-19, we did. But we asked sober questions. We asked about the exemption policy. We asked about those citizens who were stranded abroad. What was the response given? When the rest of the world shut their borders, they ensured that every single national that was left stranded abroad was taken care of. That some degree of subsistence, some degree of provision was made for those citizens stranded abroad. But here in good old Trinidad and Tobago, that was not the case. That I stood up in the Parliament in 2020 and I questioned when we were doing the mid-year review, why are we giving the Ministry of Foreign Affairs $36 million and not a single penny, not a single droga, not a single black cent was spent on our citizens stranded abroad? That I told persons on walkabouts on a number of occasions that all that separates those persons from you and I here is the wide Sargasso Sea. That those persons are just Trinbagonian just like you and I. That they have a passport just like you and I, that they have an identification card just like you and I, and they deserve better just like you and I. And under the leadership of Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, we kept the pressure on. It was unpopular, but we continued to do so. And all we asked the government of the day for was to ensure that the procedure to bring our citizens home was equitable, that it was fair. And we kept calling for the Minister of National Security to clear up this exemption situation. And we kept on asking, and about 2 weeks ago, that policy was totally changed. And now, citizens are coming home at a rapid rate. And that is the United National Congress that you have, a responsible opposition, taking unpopular decisions and stands sometimes to ensure that everyone in our country is treated fairly. But my friends, tonight, more recently, I would like to deal with something that has been in the public domain for the last couple of weeks. Many of our detractors on the other side have been indicating to persons within the public domain that the UNC is unsupportive that we are not patriotic, that we don't do our jobs correctly in the parliament, that we do not support legislation that will deal with crime and criminality. As recently as last week, another political party had a meeting where they indicated that whilst they were in opposition, they supported a plethora of legislation. And whilst the UNC was in opposition, we did not support the government with any type of legislation that would have really brought or provided a dent on crime and criminality in our country. And I say to you tonight, the one thing that the UNC has kept on saying about legislation in our country is that we will support good legislation when it is brought to the parliament, because we would ensure that that legislation redounds to the benefit of the citizenry in this country. That if the PNM, which on most occasions they do, bring bad legislation, we will amend it, we will fix it. The majority of the issues that are brought on the floor comes from the opposition. Never before in the history of this parliament has so many amendments been moved and accepted on the floor than when it comes from a UNC opposition. And the only time that we will not support legislation is when it is truly terrible legislation that is solely designed with transforming Trinidad and Tobago into what the PNM wants, which is an autocratic state, which does not benefit anyone in this country, which will not curb the scourge of criminality in this country. We will not support that. And my friends, as Ms. Victor indicated, I served in the parliament between 2017 to 2020. And I was there because I have a bit of experience with respect to criminal law and practicing in the criminal arena. And I can tell you, as one of my friends on the other side loves to say, all wrongly he does, I can make it lucidly clear to you that the United National Congress supported several pieces of legislation that was brought by the People's National Movement. That we supported the Administration of Justice Indictable Proceedings Bill of 2018. We supported the Administration of Justice Indictable Proceedings Bill of 2019, number 2. We supported the Administration of Justice Indictable Proceedings Bill number 3 of 2019. We supported the Administration of Justice Electronic Monitoring Bill of 2020. We supported the Criminal Procedure Plea Discussion and Plea Agreement Bill of 2017. The Domestic Violence Bill of 2020. The Firearms Amendment Bill of 2019. The Indictable Offences Pretrial Procedure Bill of 2017. The Miscellaneous Amendments Bill of 2020. The Miscellaneous Provisions Law Enforcement Bill of 2019, designed to protect members of our protective services in this country. The UNC supported all of those pieces of legislation. And every single time the PNM comes to the parliament, it's like chicken licking. You have to support this legislation or the sky will fall. If you don't support the legislation, it's problems in the country. If you don't support the legislation, crime and criminality will continue to run scourge on this nation. Every single time, the sky is falling. And every single time, we sit as a responsible opposition. We go through the bills and we support the ones that we know will have a proper effect on crime and criminality. As a matter of fact, 2 particular pieces of legislation, the Administration of Justice Electronic Monitoring Bill of 2020 and the DNA Regulations Bill of 2018, where the Honorable Attorney General stood up in the Parliament and indicated to the country that as of right now, reading this particular bill before the Parliament, there are over 2,000 DNA kits ready to be used to fight crime. That there are over 2,000 electronic monitoring bracelets ready to be implemented with respect to bail and other actions within this country. And now, almost 3 years after passing DNA regs, not a single DNA kit being used within the TTPS and Forensic Science Center. But the sky is falling, and the UNC is the one responsible for crime in this country. The UNC is the one not taking their job as parliamentarians seriously. But yet it is here in black and white where we have supported this government, where we think it is necessary, and we think that the citizenry will benefit from these pieces of legislation. But my friends, it goes back to what we have been saying as a responsible opposition. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, time and time again, has said to the public, has said to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, that legislation alone, embarking upon an aggressive legislative agenda alone, will not solve crime in this country. That there are many institutions within our country that require resources, that require funding, and that there must be a cohesive approach to attacking crime. And that standing up in the parliament in a $5,000 Armani suit is not working. And that we are prepared. We were prepared then, we continue to be prepared now to roll up our sleeves and get the job done. Between 2010 and 2015, there was nothing our arms of national security wanted that they did not get. That they were properly well resourced. And that is why the statistics with respect to crime was brought down in this country. We had a parliament properly up and running, and every single resource that was required was given. And this is the example that we have shown to this government. But as they say, as the old people say, like stick breaking theirs. Because if you strengthen those institutions, we will not have the issues that we have today. That I thought long and hard before I came here tonight. I tell myself, you know, if what the PNM is saying is correct, that strengthening the legislation, no bail for X and no bail for Y, that crime will go down in this country. And I thought to myself, what is the most serious offense one can commit in Trinidad and Tobago? And that is murder. And you know what? It have no bail for murder. So by the PNM's logic, if you say no bail for a set of other offenses, then murder rate should be down. But we all know that the murder rate in this country is exponentially high. And so legislation alone does not work. And we have been calling on a number of occasions in and outside the parliament for more funding for the TTPS. That some stations within our country doesn't even have station diaries to take a proper report from a citizen. That there are issues with respect to vehicle repairs. That those vehicles that have to be used to respond to emergency calls in some instances are not working. That many persons have raised these issues with CCTV cameras. And I have said it since 2017, that you go into the police station and you see those big TV screens in the charge room that's supposed to have all the cameras within the district working. When you go behind the TV screen, it is blank because they don't have funding to fix those cameras. That we need to train up our police prosecutors so they can make proper and sensible objections to bail. They are overworked and undertrained. This is what we require. We have been parading up and down within our country for the building of a new forensic science center. That the last time they talk about this forensic science center, this new science center, is that there was some deal with the Chinese and a science center would be built in Mount Hope and Sud would turn and all sorts of foolishness. And I was in Mount Hope last week and I had no forensic science center there. So what are you doing? You are not serious about crime in our country. It assists you. And until we as a responsible public support the opposition to really change the narrative, this PNM narrative, we are spinning top in mud. My friends, I have so much more that I can say on this particular topic because it really upsets me when persons peddle wrong narratives in the public and no one is really truly there to enlighten the population. I will end where I began. The UNC remains committed, truly committed, to stand with you, Trinidad and Tobago, not only inside the parliament, but shoulder to shoulder with you, with all your burdens and stresses of this life under the People's National Movement, wherever and whenever we can. I thank you. Good night.